you shouldn't have to choose between the sustainability, the performance, or the compliance for that matter. So that if there is a truly circular solution, which we aim at, would be delivering all the three of those, so that there's no compromises made with sustainability or the performance of the packaging or the compliance.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Packaging Europe Sustainability Perspectives podcast series. My name is Elisabeth Skura. I'll be your host today. So today we're going to take a deep dive into the circular economy from the perspective of a fibre-based packaging manufacturer. And we'll discuss the PPWR, adding recycled content and designing for recyclability, amongst many other things. And for this podcast, I'm really pleased to welcome Katja Thurmala, who is Head of Sustainability and Marketing Communications at Group. Welcome, Katja. I'm really looking forward to having an interesting conversation today.
Thank you, and I'm very glad to be invited. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Pleasure to have you. To get us started today, could you tell me a bit more about your background and also your role at Group?
So I am Katja Thurmala. I'm really a pulp and paper chemist, originally from Finland, and I have been working for forest industry all my career since the last decade. So you can count on how many years is that, in various different positions, from scientist to vice president. And now I work at Group in Vienna, Austria. And Group, if somebody doesn't know, is that we are a leading global producer of cotton board and folding cartons and also paper. Here I lead 5 teams, in which are sustainability, responsible sourcing, product safety, health and safety, and marketing communications. And as you can imagine, my work is sort of in an intersection of sustainability and marketing, aka the final packaging, which means that my job is really about one thing: enabling our customers really to grow responsibly with the responsible and sustainable solutions. And looking at how we can future-proof the packaging, the solutions that do work today, still comply tomorrow, and be performing as they should in the end for consumers, which is protecting the packaged goods. Behind all of this work, tip of the iceberg is the final customer packaging. But underneath the water is that I take a great deal part of shaping the Group activities to be the best in class for sustainability. We are a manufacturer and a producer, so we have plenty of things to take care so that everything is being manufactured in a way that the customer in the end will, and the world and us all who live in it, will be the beneficiaries of our production. So, and I'm very proud actually to say that we really are amongst the best in the world, as we have been validated by the CDP with a AAA leadership ranking for climate, water and forest work. So that's a little bit of the background of me and the company, and maybe putting this into perspective. Where are we? How are we based in the packaging world?
And we're going to look a bit more underneath the tip of the iceberg. Yes. To raise that today in our podcast. So yeah, look forward to that. I wanted to start broadly and ask you, from your vantage point at Group, how would you define a circular economy?
All right, this is a good question. Quite a broad question, so I try to keep it simple. I think the key point is designing from the very beginning, whether it's waste or other circular economy related topics. So it's about ensuring that all the materials, they stay in use for as long as possible, and then in the end, when they have fulfilled the purpose, they can flow back into the cycle safely and also efficiently. And this is what really does. We enable high quality packaging circularity by producing the virgin materials. We manufacture virgin paper boards and virgin paper products. We produce them responsibly, and after the first packaging cycle that they have fulfilled their first purpose, we bring the good fibers back to life up to 20 times as we produce recycled carton board and packaging out of the recycled carton board. So this is really what circularity is at and what we do every day. This is what our business is about. And for me, it's kind of like a DNA of this circularity cycle of a life of a fiber. And then if we look at more on the customer side, customer perspective, I think what this kind of circularity approach, it means fewer trade-offs. So what I mean is that you shouldn't have to choose between the sustainability, the performance, or the compliance for that matter. So that if there is a truly circular solution, which we aim at, would be delivering all the three of those, so that there's no compromises made with sustainability or the performance of the packaging or the compliance for the final solution. It's the design part that you'll have to look into the whole value chain of the material coming to the final end and going beyond the collecting and the recycling. But one thing that I did not mention is that we have to do this very closely with our customers, because when you look at different material choices, different structures, is there a barrier need, for example, for food packaging, or what kind of printing technology, or what kind of end-of-life pathway there is? We have to work very closely with the customer or the end user because of the supply chain of the customer or the market where the product will end up to, or the regulatory exposure. All of these are different for different end users or different customers, depending on their size or the market. Are they playing in Europe? Are they playing in the solution provider? Or what is the regulatory side? For example, circularity and recyclability have to be claimed very differently in different parts of the world. So we have to work really closely to be able to do a really circular solution. It's not just pushing out something. It is more that what do we need to deliver for the customer in the end?
And linked to that, what are some of the biggest hurdles towards circularity you've encountered, both in your products and in your operations, and how have you overcome them?
I think the biggest elephant or the biggest hurdle is, how do you balance the functionality and the circularity? Because in the end, the main goal of a package is to protect the product. It needs to run efficiently in the packing lines, and it needs to look great. It needs to be that's the whole story of packaging. And how do we then have the increasingly strict sustainability or regulatory requirements? How do we fit it into this equation? This is the biggest hurdle of, I would say, everyday work. There are some other topics, of course, that I could mention, but I think this is the biggest one. So how is this? How can we make it happen? And what do we do is that we do invest in the material sciences. We look at different testing, and then we have to go back to the collaboration across the value chain. Then we can come up with real world solutions for these problems, that we have a fully recyclable, great efficiency on the packing line, and that the end product also gets the protection that it needs.
Obviously, when talking about the circular economy, closely linked to that, particularly in Europe, is the European Union's packaging and packaging waste regulation. And how can Group's paper and packaging solutions help companies with meeting requirements such as recyclability and using renewable materials?
For the fiber-based solutions, inherently aligned with the key regulatory goals. I think for the fiber-based solutions, this is actually more of a good thing than it is a bad thing. And putting this in the brackets of a bad thing, I mean that for us, we have already high recyclability rates. Basically, the materials are from renewable sources, at least the biggest part of the material groups. But for our customers, this may still be very overwhelming because of the customers may not have all the information about the materials that we do. So this is where we come in as a partner, that we help creating and making sure that the customers' packaging concepts are fulfilling the requirements right now, but also the cycle of packaging. It's what we are designing today will be something that's on the market maybe 6 months in a row, 1 year in a row. So we have to take a look also on the what's coming up next, and making sure that we choose the right products, we choose the right solutions that are maybe recyclable by design, or that looking at towards even 2030, it's fully recycled also. And for customers, of course, the uncertainty is the worst part, and that we hope that we can be the partners, or that's our end game, to be the partners that we can really help to shape a right kind of packaging portfolio.
Yes, I think any help with the current uncertainty, I'm sure, is much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we take part in the industry value chain coming together. For example, for Evergreen is a industry collaboration that we are together within the value chain, looking at the guidelines, for example, that are provided for the packaging waste regulation, or these technical aspects of how do we make sure that the material is complying. And this is something that is taking a lot of part, because, like I said, we are one of the only ones who can provide real life data for recycled and virgin materials, and how it is really practically done, because we do both of those sides.
Yes, and obviously, as you mentioned, Group works with recycled and virgin fibre, and highlights that we must be sustainable with every fibre. Could you talk a bit more about this approach and how it works?
So what it means is that using the right fiber in the right place, and only where it brings the benefit. Recycled fiber, it is ideal for many applications, while virgin fiber is sometimes necessary for some reason, so that one of the material wouldn't exist without the other. We would not be able to use virgin fibers if we didn't have this very effective and high yield recycling. So this is what we mean, that we have to keep the fibers in the loop, and look with our customers that what's the end game? What is the smart material use for the customer? Is it that the customer's brand wants to look more into the world of using recycled fiber, and what that means with sustainability credentials, this we can provide, and also the other way around, that if there's strength properties needed, for example, is it then the virgin fiber that should be used? But what's the smart material use? That's what it means, that we need to be sustainable with every fiber and make sure that the high-end recycling stays, so that we can keep up the good recycling rates in EU, but also globally.
And I wanted to talk a bit more about functionality as well, as obviously paper and board scores highly on recyclability and also on using recycled content, as we discussed. But how do you design your solutions to ensure optimum functionality while not at the same time compromising recyclability?
Yes, this comes to the design part again. So that looking at recyclability as the core requirement. And this is now being enforced with the PPWR requirements that all the packaging needs to be recyclable by the 2030. So this is already now happening, and it's already part of the core requirement of our design. So avoiding unnecessary layers, keeping structures very simple, ensuring the compatibility with the standard recycling streams, analyzing the material that is going to be used, analyzing the design, when choosing the right components that we are using to make the packaging. For example, if replacing plastic elements such as a window or a cover or a tray with a fiber-based alternative, this would make that, or this would mean that the design of the packaging can be recycled easier without the need of separating the components, for example. So looking at what makes in the end the recycling easier for when we are, and increases the recovery rates possibly. This is one of the goals, and also in our own production then, when we are designing different new materials like barrier boards, for example, then it is also the recyclability is the core element. We are not developing anything that cannot be fully recycled in a normal recycling stream.
That's great to hear. I also wanted to ask you, how do you deal with tricky components such as inks or adhesives on packaging?
This, in the end, a small part. When you look at a fiber-based packaging, the fiber is the main part of the packaging, but these are still important. So when choosing the right product, looking at the recycling friendly, if you can call it that, inks or adhesives that wouldn't interfere with the fiber recovery. And this means looking at testing, looking at talking with your value chain, what kind of products these are, and also making sure that in the end, for the customer's perspective, because for the customer, this would mean that we have to deliver a strong branding and a strong visual appeal, but our know-how then supports the high quality recycling and meeting the brand's sustainability commitments. Or like we usually say is that the packaging that says "I'm just your style," combining these together, and whether there is going to be some other visual elements like some metal parts or something like this, it needs to be taken into account in the design phase.
I wanted to wrap up our conversation by asking you what will be Group's key focus points in the future, in the coming months and years, to boost circularity and sustainability at the company and their products.
Yes, when you look at the big picture for sustainability, our, I would say, top two are the decarbonization and also enhancing circularity. And these two go more or less hand in hand. But if you look at the circularity first, we are looking into expanding the possibilities to expand the use of fiber-based alternatives, meaning replacing plastics whenever it is possible with our design, with our innovation, and then improving the recyclability even further of the final packaging, and also with the packaging materials that we are creating, and increasing the recycled content where it makes sense. So where it is either customers wish, or that we can look at that we are providing the right kind of environmental credentials that there is needed in the end. For the decarbonization path of we have a very specific plan forward. We have really tight targets that we have set for ourselves and for our production and also for our supply chain, so scope 3 emissions. And this is one of the top priorities to fulfill and decarbonize as much as possible towards 2030 and going towards net zero 2050. So all in all together, we will continue to work closely with our value chain for the emission part and for the sustainability part and also for the circularity, and especially with customers. We are looking into more co-development on the packaging that would fit the customer's goals. So the expectations they have in sustainability in a way that it's credible and also practical and also commercially viable. So this in the end, that we would be a partner that helps to move forward with confidence, that meeting the expectations from the regulators and from the consumers, and helping to build and maintain brands that are fit really for a circular future together. This would be the ultimate focus point of what we do in sustainability at MM.
That sounds great. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our conversation today. Thank you, Katja, for sharing your insights. Thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It was fun, and let's look forward for a more circular future together.
Absolutely, yes. That's a great way to finish up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And quick reminder for our listeners, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on whatever podcast platform you might be listening on, so you don't miss out on any of the latest episodes. Thanks very much.